Welcome one and all for the third Liverpool Rumours podcast of the 2019-2020 Premiership season with Ed's 001 and Ed's 666. I'm now officially the devil. Ha 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 ha.
And your jokes don't get any better.
Oh, God, that nearly killed me saying that.
It's the smoking.
Good evening. How are you, mate?
Well, I was a lot better before you told your joke.
Mate, it's only going to get better. Don't you worry, pal.
Couldn't get any worse, let's be fair.
Right, before we start, we have some hot gossip regards to Liverpool ownership at the end of this podcast. So stay tuned. It's pretty spicy. No pun intended. All right, mate. Lots of chat about tonight. So I suppose let's start with the Super Cup. Adrian!
You just broke your mic, I think.
I think I just killed myself again. I need a defibrillator. All right, mate. The way the team celebrated that win, I thought we'd won the Premiership. It was hilarious.
Yeah, it's still a cup, isn't it, for them?
I don't know.
And it's beating Chelsea as well, which makes the difference.
Yeah, Mr. Lampard as well, yeah. He's not having much luck, that fella.
Well, we've had a bit of a European rivalry with them, haven't we, in recent years, so it's kind of nice to put another one over on them without a ghost goal.
Yeah, and he was playing in all those games as well, so yeah, you're right, I suppose, yeah. Honestly, mate, I can't even remember the game. It was that inconsequential, so I've not bothered doing any player ratings.
The only thing I can remember is Kante being exceptional in the first half and bossing the game on his own.
Oh my God, he was supreme, wasn't he?
Oh, what a player.
What a player. What a half-fit Kante as well.
Oh, God. You just got to wonder what difference he'd have made in the first game of the season against Man United. Would they have lost 4-0 with him in the team fully fit? Not a chance.
A quarter fit Kante would have done that midfielder Man United, I suppose. It was, going back to the game, mate, it was pretty hot out there, akin to like the final in Madrid, so that probably had a lot to do with it. Players were getting fit, so it didn't make for a great game, to be fair.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters in these kind of things is winning, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah, it adds to the...
Yeah, it's a friendly, basically, so the only thing it does is if you win, it gives you increased confidence coming into the next game. If you lose, then it's just something, it's just tired your legs out for nothing, basically, so...
Well, yeah, and it adds to the prestige of the football club as well, because that would have been a worldwide audience. And,
yeah, exactly.
And it takes us one more trophy than Man United. So that's
why did it go to extra time? That's the thing I don't get. Just go straight to bloody penalties.
I had no idea, mate. I think that was a general consensus that it was folly to play extra time. I know it was only 20 minutes or so. Was it half an hour? Or was it 20 minutes?
Half an hour.
It was half an hour, right? Okay, yeah, I know that was folly, but the powers that be, Adrian. Yeah. I suppose he was the hero with the penalty save.
Yeah, I felt sorry for him on the other one. Where the penalty where he gave it away, because it clearly wasn't a penalty. I never saw there wasn't a definitive. Maybe you know different, but there wasn't a definitive camera angle for that penalty. They the angle that everybody wanted to see, they didn't show. Maybe they didn't have a camera that. No, they didn't. That's why. Well, we're going to get to VAR later, so I won't say it. So we won't get it. But that's why it's not ready yet, because there's just not the right. There's just not enough angles on the cameras. Needs more cameras.
Okay. Yeah. What I thought, we'll get to, as you say, we'll get to VAR real soon. The other thing was what cracked me up was an 87-year-old Jurgen Klopp sprinting at the end towards the players, and he was about much faster than Harry Maguire can ever run.
It's funny how quick he can move when they got through. When we win something, isn't it? It's like Grease lightning when we win something.
It was brilliant. I loved it, man. Okay, he can do no wrong in my eyes. The other thing I wanted to say was about Salah. I know in the last podcast we spoke about him being selfish, but the last couple of games in against Southampton and Chelsea, he's been decidedly unselfish, and I prefer him selfish because he's passing up opportunities where he should be shooting. And I mean, I'm sure, not that I know, I'm sure, I think somebody's had a word with him, but I think it's deflecting from his game, detracting from his game.
I just think it's that the chances are there to play somebody else in. He did it in, everyone was moaning about him, but he only had one player making a run from midfield in the first game, and as soon as he got that run from midfield with Keita, he played the ball to him. So, I don't see how he can not be selfish when there's no other options on most of the time. What you find is there's a lack of runs from midfields, and so there's no real option for him to play in unless it's Bobby or Mane, and he needs that extra option to be able to do something different with it. Even if he stops playing them in now and spends the next 6 months shooting, it won't matter. Just so long as it goes, it's just about mixing it up. He's mixed it up for a few games. Now he can go back to shooting for a bit. And
praise be, I hope so, because I much prefer him selfish. Also, one lovely little piece of humanity I picked up on in the game at the end was when the trophy was being handed out, the kid in the wheelchair. What a great touch! That all the players, they hugged him and they were being really kind to him. And then Hendo just spent at the end. The players were waiting for him to lift the trophy, and he spent a good 30 seconds, a minute with the kid, and he got him to kiss the trophy, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful piece of humanity. And I thought,
I don't know what I could add to that, really.
Is that really poetic? And
I couldn't really disagree with you. So...
that's the first time for everything. Did he bring a tear to your eye?
What Henderson did, or what you said?
Well, no, what I said.
Your voice always brings a tear to my eye. It's pain.
Moving swiftly on, I wanted to ask you about Graham Souness. I was watching it on Irish TV, and he was saying that Liverpool didn't hold a high line because they were tired, but basically they were being lazy. Souness said they have a real defensive issue based on the few games he's seen of this early in the season, City, Norwich, and the Chelsea game. And he said it's the worst defender he's ever seen under Klopp. I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I think Souness is just forgetting what he's seen in previous seasons. Every team always starts off struggling. It's very few teams start off playing brilliantly at the start of the season. It's just the way it is. It takes a few games to get up to speed. I just don't see the problem with it. We were poor last season defensively at the start, and everyone was having a good whine.
But why is that, though? Why? I mean, there's a difference between being unfit and being lazy.
No, it's Souness is just saying, he's just trying to make comments that bring him more publicity to get more jobs, because there is nothing. That's not laziness. That they did hold a high line. When they dropped off, it was because Pulisic was threatening him behind, and what's his name, Pedro, on the other side.
Yeah.
So they were dropping off to cover, to stop them from being able to get in behind them. That's all. Pedro was having a good game and, linking up well with Kante. Kante was dominating the midfield. So sometimes you have to drop off. You can't just hold a high line. This is akin to this strange. I've seen a lot of people talking about how we're holding a higher line than last season because of VAR, and I'm thinking that they actually watched any of the games last season. They'd realise that that's not even true. We couldn't have held a higher line. We were in halfway inside the opponent's half every time we dominated possession last season, so we couldn't get any higher.
That is absolute bunkum, because I read that as well, that we're holding a much higher line this season, but clearly that's not true, because it was exactly the same defensive line as last season.
Exactly. I don't know where people get these ideas from. I think they just make stuff up to make an interesting story, or they don't actually watch the team regularly, so they just guess.
I think what it is that they pick up on what other esteemed journalists have said or other people, and then they don't watch the games. They just pick up on what they say and just echo that. It's ridiculous.
I'm not sure. Is there such a thing as an esteemed journo these days?
Apart from me, of course. Anyway.
I said esteemed, not steamed.
All right. I suppose it will be remiss of us not to talk about VAR. So I know we're going to do a separate podcast on this in a day or two. So let's keep this one brief because we'll go into it in more developed in the podcast.
Yeah, you know my thoughts on it. Take it off the hands of the PGMOL in England because it's a joke. It's just really badly managed. I mean, some of the decisions. Why? The decisions just make no sense. I mean, I've not got a problem with them. The Man City decision. I've not got a problem with that. They're right. The rules say that that's an error. But on the other hand, they're not making another decision because they're saying it's not a clear and obvious error. Well, how can you say that the handball wasn't a clear and obvious error, but it is still you either stick to only changing it when the error is obvious and everybody's seen it and, so you've got to change it, or you change everything on VAR. And the other thing is, the one, what I'm going to say now about them going to the sidelines.
Oh, right. Yes. I was going to get to that. But let's just, okay. Why do you advocate taking the adjudication out of the hands of the PGMOL?
Because they are already in the centre making their decisions, and what you need is somebody who's not is an independent adjudicator who's not got any axe, not got an axe to grind for anybody involved, you know what I mean? And they're also not going to be biased towards anyone involved, so they could just make a clear and honest decision, which is what the referees are supposed to do. But what we end up with is they make a ridiculous decision and then the PGMOL comes out and defends it for weeks, like the Harry Kane, we all know the Harry Kane one. We all remember that one against Spurs. It was the most ludicrous decision ever, and they come out with the most convoluted nonsense bullshit. Not
language,
true.
Timothy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a way to. What way is there to say that without? Yeah. Anyway, so the explanation was total nonsense, and they made it up just to protect their man in the middle, and that's all we're gonna get from if we have them in the studio watching it or wherever it is. It's not a studio, is it? What do they use? It's not a truck. They've got like a place. Whatever
it's in
they.
West Drayton. No, it's in West Drayton or something in the office. I don't know.
Maybe it's a zoo thing. Maybe they just get the animals in the zoo to look at it because they probably do a better job.
What, a monkey? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, highlighting on what you've said. How about they train the people that know the equipment, the hardware, the VAR system? What about if they train those guys and girls football rules and they make the decisions?
Yeah. Well,
Would that be an idea?
Anyone. I just think you've got, for starters, we haven't got enough the PGMOL hasn't got enough Premier League officials. It's not going to have enough because it's very difficult to reach that standard for obvious reasons, and so it should be. So, but it's not the same skill. I mean, they don't need to be fit. They don't need to be active. Why not get if nothing else, get the old retired ones in? If they're going to have to stick with the PGMOL, then get the old retired referees in that have been kicked out because they got too old. Why not put them in? I mean, Jeff Winter's a fat knacker and couldn't run around all day like Jonathan Moss struggles still. Right. But they'd be all right sat in the studio watching it, wouldn't they? Personally, though, I think you just have ones that it's a different skill. You know what I mean? And surely you could look at them when you're training them. You say to them, you're actually, you're not really that good at making these decisions on the fly. The pressure gets to you when you're doing it in the middle. We're going to put you in this, put you doing the VAR. There's no pressure then.
I hear you, because what you're saying is they need to be out in the middle rather than being in some office somewhere looking at the VAR. So Yeah, I get you. Okay, let's talk about this. You just highlighted it about. I think we're the only country in Europe. Correct me if I'm wrong, where the ref doesn't adjudicate his own decision. You know, like in the World Cup when he
Yeah,
ran off to the side,
yeah.
looked at a big TV screen.
As far as I know, we're the only country in the whole world that uses VAR that doesn't
Right.
give it to, doesn't refer it back to the referee to go and have a look if there's a decision to be made. If they say what they do is in most countries like Germany and Italy is the VAR officials will say to the ref, I think you need to have a look at this. Yeah, we think you've got it wrong. And the ref can say, oh, no, I'll take your judgment for it and then change his decision. Or he can say, nah, I'm sorry, I think I'm right and stick with his decision. Or he can go over and have a look at the monitor. It's up to him. But that's how it should be because he's the man in charge for me. And it just seems a bit like he's degrading his position.
So why are we the only country in the world that doesn't do that then, to adjudicate on the side with the big TV screen?
Your guess is as good as mine. Nobody knows. It doesn't make any sense. But this is the PGMOL, and they think they're better than everyone else. I mean, they interpret all the rules differently, if you notice.
So this is obviously a UEFA regulation, right? So why isn't it a blanket directive throughout the world or throughout?
It's not. It's not ruled by FIFA. Though it's just they give guidelines. And everyone else can, follows them as they interprets them as they choose. It's like you have the laws of the game, but they still leave, there's still gaps left for interpretation, which is what's been happening over the years. And this is one of the areas.
Gotcha. So you have your own jurisdiction, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, you can look at it and say, well, we don't want to do it like that. Or these are doing it like that. We don't want to copy them. We want to do our own way. Try something different. I don't know why they're doing it, but
the only reason I can see why we're not doing it, going to the sides and looking at the TV screen, is it may it's time. It's time. They use a lot more time doing it that way.
It's a possibility, yeah. But I don't see that it's that much different. I mean, you're already waiting 2 minutes, aren't you, or whatever, 30 seconds, whatever. It doesn't matter, does it? How long is it going to take a guy to run off to the side of the pitch and go and have a look at the monitor?
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's going to come to a point where nobody. I think it was the Wolves manager the other day said, and he's correct. It's going to come to a point that you're going to score a goal and you're just not going to celebrate because you don't know if it's going to be a goal or not.
Well, I mean, you still had them ruled off before, so I'm not sure about that. Yeah. I just think the problem is, unless you are if you're putting it on a video screen for the ref to have a look at, you can then put it on the big screens for the crowd to look at, and they know what's going on. The problem right now is when a VAR judgment comes, nobody has a blimmin' clue what's going on. I mean, you just don't know what's happening.
Yeah, that's the disconnect between the officials and the fans. There's a big disconnect there. I mean, I love it in principle. It sorts out, but they need to sort out the inconsistencies. There needs to be, like the ambiguity you were talking about. We can't have that anymore. And the reason I like it is there's none of this. I never believed in that, invested in that. All these decisions even themselves out over the course of the season. With VAR, that doesn't happen. You win. Say, for example, you win a title and you win it right.
Yeah, if it works, it will.
Exactly.
But it doesn't work because it's not. Yeah, it's not working yet.
Science.
What they should have been doing is just testing it for another couple of years yet. Shouldn't have brought it in yet.
But how long have they been testing it? It's been a few years anyway.
It's only a couple of seasons. I mean, that's not really that long. I mean, I mean, how long does it take a referee to learn how to be a referee? They don't really, they don't learn it in 2 years. So why do you think you can train up a VAR, official or whatever you want to call, whatever they're called? They need time to understand what they're looking for and how to see it, and it'll speed them up. The more they do it, the quicker they'll get.
So you feel it was rushed?
Yeah.
The technology.
Yeah, just to get it in.
Yeah. Okay.
They should have changed. They should have just gone with things like when testing to see when the ball was over the line and stuff like that is all they should have brought in initially. Like the Hawkeye system to see if it goes over the line in a goal. Why not do it on the goal line and the sidelines as well? Because that's a matter of fact. Either it crosses the line or it hasn't.
Yeah, exactly. That's not open to interpretation. It's a fact, yeah.
Though I've seen how many bad calls have I seen referees make on those already this season. Not whether it's gone out or not, but who's kicked it out last. And you can clearly see it's come off one team and the other team get and it goes to the wrong team
goal
every
kick
time.
Or the throw in or the corner kick. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen hundreds of them already this season. It's ridiculous. I mean, they shouldn't be getting these wrong. Those kind of things, I don't see why VAR can't look at, if it's sped up a bit, I don't see why they couldn't just have a word in his ear and say, no, that clearly came off the other guy, mate.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree about that because it takes 1 second to make that decision, yeah.
If they can't tell, then they just stick with the referee's decision. Which only if the referees clearly got it wrong. Well, they can say.
Yeah. Again, they have to iron out these inconsistencies. For example, the penalty saved by Adrian from Tammy Abraham. He was in Chelsea's penalty area when he saved that. I mean, that should have been chalked off. How did that get accepted?
I have no idea. I've heard some nonsense being put forward by the bigots like Richard Keys that they were just trying to protect it because it was a woman official. But I don't think that's true. I think they just it's just kind of like every time each of the keeper was doing it, they were coming off their line. So I think they just gave up on it, to be honest.
I don't think that holds.
I've never seen a keeper not come off his line. I've not seen one yet.
I honestly, and I don't believe in that. I don't think that's a fair rule that the keeper can't come off his line because a penalty really is. It should be easy to score the miss, and you've got to give the advantage to. Excuse me. I
just don't think it matters, to be honest, whether he comes off his line or not. If you hit it well, you score.
Exactly. You can't. It's harder to miss a penalty than score. To score one.
Well, it should be. We've seen it can be more difficult.
Unless you're Paul Pogba, of course.
Yeah, and I did feel sorry for Tammy Abraham because he's taken some horrible abuse afterwards. I mean,
that's just sick. I mean,
something wrong with people.
It's just a disease in society, let alone football. It's just a disease. I mean, I haven't got the words, honestly. I just think he misses a penalty and he gets vitriolic racist abuse like that. It's just twisted. It's completely twisted. All right, mate. I wanted to ask you about the City goal that was chalked off against Spurs. It was obviously, for me, it was rightly chalked off. But if you're going to be pissed at the rules and not the technology in that case.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, as long as they're consistent, no, I don't think anybody will care, to be honest, by the end of the season. It's just Pep whining because he didn't get it his way. I mean, he was the one that complained so much that they brought it in the first place to change the handball rules. So, you reap what you sow, lad.
Karma, eh?
Exactly.
What? Okay, so what do you feel about that rule, though? You know, the one about the accidental handball. Everything that's handball, be it accidental or not accidental, won't result in a goal now. How do you feel about that?
Well, at least it's clear. I don't know how you keep your hand out the way, but at least you know where you stand. If it hits your hand, it's no goal.
Yeah, but what if it's shot straight at your hand, you're point blank, and it deflects to an attacker, and he puts it in the goal? How's that?
No, it's only if it's an attacker that handles it.
Okay.
So you couldn't stick your hand out and save it, it wouldn't stop, it wouldn't result in it, and it still goes in the back of the net. It wouldn't then stop it being a goal.
Right, so 1 minute. What you're saying to me is Bobby Firmino's got the ball in the penalty box, and the guy defending him is Anthony Martial, right? And it goes off Anthony Martial's hand. Bobby takes a shot. It comes off Martial's hand, point blank, and it goes to Salah, and he puts it in a goal, so it's not a goal.
No, that would be a goal. It's if it hits Salah's hand on the way in. It wouldn't be.
No, that's what I'm saying. So
no, you just said if it hit Marshall's hand, it wouldn't matter. Marshall plays with the other team. He's a defender in that situation.
So right? Let me rewind a little bit. Right, Bobby's got the ball, right, and in front of him is Harry Maguire. Maguire is a yard away from him, and Bobby shoots, right, and it hits Maguire's hand, and it ricochets to Salah. Salah puts it in the net. That's not a goal.
No, it's still a goal unless the referee decides to call it back and give it a penalty. It's still a goal.
Yeah, but with the new rules, that's
no,
not a goal,
no, you're not getting it. It's only if it's an attacker that handles it.
Oh, right. I thought it was blanket if it gets handled.
No. Only if it hits an attacker's hand. That's why they had to check it to see if it hit an Man City player or a defender, Spurs player.
Every day's a school day. Why, thank you, Mr. Burke. I appreciate
this is hard work sometimes. It's good to see you've done your preparation. You told me you'd done weeks of preparation for this.
About 13 minutes, but it's all clear.
That's 13 minutes your missus would love to have had.
No. If you asked her, mate, I think she'd be...
Yeah, you don't know. Fair point.
She'd give you a different answer. Right, now I get it. I'm going to Google that.
Yeah, it's just if it literally, if it hits an attacker, it's going, it's going in and it hits his hand. It doesn't matter if it would have gone in anyway. If it's accidental or deliberate, just if it hits a hand of an attacking player, it's ruled out.
Gotcha. Fantastic.
It's just simplifies it rather than anything else, I think. I mean, it was because Willy Bolly accidentally handled it and put the ball in the back of the net against Man City last season. And Pep Guardiola was furious and went on and on about it for weeks. So they changed the rules for him. I mean, what more could he ask for?
So, what do you feel about there's a rumour going around that all the managers are going to get together and they're going to have a conflab and try and change some of these rules?
Well, they won't. They don't have any power to do so. So don't see the point.
They don't have any power over.
It's not their job, is it? They don't make the laws of the game, but nor should they. Players shouldn't either.
Right.
It's a bit like in Formula One. The reason why it's such a mess now is because the race, the teams made the rules. That's why it was such a mess. You don't let the players make the rules. It never works out well.
I don't know. They're the ones playing the game.
Yeah, but they're playing it, and they just want rules to set for their favour. It's the way it is. It's natural thinking. It's why UFC originally, when it started, was set up by the Gracie brothers, and they deliberately set the rules to favour jiu-jitsu fighters because obviously they wanted to showcase their jiu-jitsu. Then the Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and so you still have certain point-scoring incidents in UFC that are basically nonsense point scorers, like putting someone down gives you a point when it might do no damage whatsoever. But it still gets you, it still gives you an advantage because it favoured a jiu-jitsu fighter who was looking to take someone down all the time. It doesn't make it a better spectacle. It doesn't make it a better sport. It just favours them.
Let's not get into UFC because I'll just eulogise. I'll just eulogise about Khabib for about 3.5 hours. Yeah, Khabib. So,
but I'm just saying that the rules aren't set. Fighters and competitors don't want rules set to favour better competition. They want rules set to favour themselves. It's just the way they are. People want to win. So you don't let them choose it. You let other people on the outside who are independent, who have got, that set the rules to make it a better sport.
Are you happy with the rules as they are now, or do you think they're a nonsense, or do you think they can be improved? Or?
There's lots of things that could be done. I mean, there's always tweaks that could be needed, but there's the offside rule's the biggie. It's just such a mess at the moment. You don't even know whether anyone's offside or not, when it should be clear. If they're, none of this interfering with play. If they're on the bloody pitch, they're interfering with play. They have to be. You wouldn't play an offside trap if you didn't want to catch someone offside. So, so you're already interfering with play because teams are playing a deliberate system to try and catch you offside.
In my opinion, that was one rule that wasn't broken, and they tried to fix it.
I mean, it wasn't perfect as it was, but at least it made sense, and it was clear, and it was simple as well. You could understand it. Well, most people could. I mean, I know your missus had trouble trying to explain it to you.
She was using salt and pepper pots and everything, and the teapot came out. It was brutal.
God. I've done that so many times in caps and that with mates where you've had all the condiments lined up.
Don't lie, Tristan. You haven't got any friends.
Yeah, well, it sounded good.
You've got Imaginara and Invisibla. That's your friend.
But none of these listening knew that, so I could have fooled them there if you hadn't said anything.
Right, as I say, we're going to do a VAR podcast in the next couple of days, so we'll go into developed and at length.
We might need to leave it a bit longer for you to do your research and actually understand some of what it is and that.
The problem is you have to read, and
you can't, can you?
Well, I've just learned how to do my shoelaces, mate. So reading's next week or the week after.
I'm impressed. I never thought you'd ever learn to do up your shoelaces. You always had Velcro shoes when I saw you.
No, well, sandals, mate, when I saw you. Last time I saw you.
Yeah.
That's how much you take notice of me, eh?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, mate, let's move on to Liverpool Southampton, the post-mortem. So after a round trip of 4,000 plus miles, we had 2 days of training, and we beat the Saints 2-1. Not ideal preparation, but we got the job done.
Yeah, they just looked a bit tired, didn't they, and leggy. And they definitely played within themselves to try and wear Southampton down.
Mate, to be honest, that first half was pretty abysmal. We should have been 2 down before Mane scored at the end of the first half. But
we weren't. That's the point, isn't it? I mean, Adrian made a good save, but that's what he's there to do.
Yeah, it was a wonder save. I thought it was a wonder save. The Shea Adams should have scored, but with a header. But you can see why he's not prolific.
Yeah, I'm not convinced with him at all. I think they might need a better striker there. They should have started with Dings, in my opinion. Glad they didn't. Because we're going to come back to come to it in a bit with that horrendous howler sitter he missed. But I thought Shea Adams was a nuisance all game. He kept us honest. Yeah, but a nuisance. Shane Long was a nuisance, but he was still crap. He was just a nuisance. Yeah, he was just annoying because you knew he'd run around like a headless chicken all game. He might never do anything against you, but you always knew there's a possibility he might get lucky and trip over his own feet and head it into the goal or something.
Wasn't there a rumour that we wanted to buy him? Was that a nightmare?
That was a long time ago. Long time ago. Somebody did put him forward, yeah.
Oh, my God.
It was only put forward. I don't believe there was, as far as I'm aware, there was never any actual interest, but just one of the stats guys suggested him, I believe.
Wow. Glad that didn't happen. Right, the second half.
Was it Comolli? Was it when Comolli was there?
Oh, Comolli.
Yeah.
Daniel Comolli.
Yeah, the one he's now at Fenerbahce. No wonder they're struggling.
Yeah, and they wanted Sturridge, but they couldn't afford him.
Yeah, well,
they've got no money. Fenerbahce have got no money whatsoever.
Well, they won't have if they're employing Comolli, because he'll spend a fortune on crap. He'll just buy shite. Sorry.
The dark old days, yeah. Going back to Southampton game, that second half was a complete contrast. We woke up from our slumber and played some real sexy stuff, I thought, and could have been out of sight. We had Robbo had a great chance with that crisp drive. Bobby had a great chance. Salah had a one-on-one. We could have been.
I just thought they would. It was deliberate policy to me. It looked like they were just saving themselves. Just trying not to let Southampton get a lead, so it could go at them in the second half and make sure the legs didn't go. Because obviously, it's been a long week. It's been a long week. A lot of travelling and that, and 2 hours of football and penalties and that.
That was a very dicey way of playing, if you ask me, because they were all over us first half.
But what else can you do? You've got no legs left. You've come back. You come back early hours in the morning. You've only had like 1 day, and then you're off again to Southampton. It's a long journey again.
Yeah, again, that was a nonsense playing that Chelsea game.
Well, I could understand that, but why didn't the Premier League knew when the fixtures were set up that Liverpool and Chelsea were playing that game. They knew there's a possibility of it going to extra time and penalties. Why not just make them both play on the Sunday? Yeah,
it was a foolish decision. We really did make life difficult ourselves with Adrian and that calamitous error.
Oh God! And he nearly did it. That was his second attempt at it as well. That was the worrying thing. Wasn't like he did it once and then thought, "Oh God, I better not do that again." He did it in the first half and then he did it again in the second, but just made sure this time it went in. It's like,
oh my God! I thought we were lucky in the first half when he messed up that back pass. Oh my God! But the second one, they got the second one. But he did make a brilliant save from Matip as well, though. To be fair.
Yeah.
But he's obviously he's. I think it's a carbon copy of Alisson, like Klopp said. Alisson made these mistakes early on in his career, and he's not done too badly.
Hey, it happens. And anyway, it's a goalkeeper's life. They make a mistake. It almost always ends in a goal. It's just the way it is. And the good thing is, it got out the way and we still got 3 points. So
he made some brilliant saves as well, let's be fair. He did save us. So, the Danny Ings miss. Oh, my God, at 2-1 with 7 minutes to go. How did he miss that?
I've no idea, but I'm grateful to him. Maybe he didn't want to score.
Agent Ings.
Yeah.
Right. Let's get to the player ratings, mate, for the Southampton game. I gave Adrian a 6 out of 10. He kept us in the game with 2 wonder saves, and he did obviously make some clumsy errors. I think he's better with his hands than he is with his feet.
Yeah, he's not bad with his feet, but he's not Alisson level. That's the problem. He's being compared to Alisson. If you were comparing him to, if we were sitting here and saying, compared to Mignolet or Karius, it'd look good. But we're sitting here comparing him to Alisson, and you're just thinking, oh God, it's just it's unfair. Alisson's the best at the best we've had that I've in how many years, and
yeah, you think he's the best ever, don't you, at Liverpool? Alisson.
Well, it's because the rules are changed, and it's changed how goalkeepers have to play. We've never had a goalkeeper as good with his feet as Alisson is. Even Grob wasn't as good as with his feet, and the rule changes meant that it's a big part of the game. So, I mean, Tommy Lawrence might have been just as good with his feet. If he'd been given the chance, he might have turned out to be just as good a sweeper keeper. But because he was a sweeper keeper, it was a different kind of sweeping them days.
Yeah. I thought I thought Grobler was very good with his feet, but
he liked to dribble.
Let's go back to Adrian. He, I don't think his kicking's that great, to be honest with you.
No, it's just
it's average at best.
But he's a backup keeper. He's just not gonna be great, is he? If he was great, he'd be somebody's first choice. But
to be honest with you, he saved us. He saved us in 2 games, Chelsea and the dog just walked in, mate. Hang on.
I think it's a bit harsh, isn't it? I mean, you're married here. You can't say things like that. Jesus! Oh my God! You can't have that, mate. You're gonna get us into so much trouble.
Back to Adrian, mate. He saved us the last two games, and that did make me chuckle, mate. He saved us the last two games. I said that 4 times now, haven't I?
I've lost count.
Let me just get the dog out. Go. Come on, buddy. Let's go.
I'm saying nothing.
Come on, buddy. Come on. That's your best one yet. I'll give you that. It's all downhill from here.
Talking about this has been the best we've done.
Right, so he saved us last couple of games. We can't gripe. He's only going to be in goal for another few games. But honestly, I'm being too harsh on the guy. I think he's fabulous for what he's filled a hole, and he's done it really well. So
I remember the days when Mike Cooper was the only backup we had. So yeah, I'm quite happy with Adrian. I do as well. He scared me.
Cooper, man, he was playing. I went to see Liverpool QPR one day, and he was in goal, and he wasn't. So yes,
he wasn't good, was he?
Yeah.
See why he was a backup. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, they reckon that Alisson's not going to be out. It's only going to be 3 or 4 weeks now, as opposed to the 6 and 8 weeks. So
it's international break soon as well, isn't it? Next month. So.
Exactly. Yeah, but will they take him on that international break? I hope not.
Well, he's injured, so he can cry off anyway.
Well, they love playing for Brazil, those boys, don't they?
True.
Yeah.
True.
Well, all right, mate. Well, next was Trent. I think it was a bad day at the office for him. I think nothing went right, offensively or defensively. I think he'll very, very rarely play that poorly again.
I just thought he looked tired, even though he wasn't. He couldn't have been. I'm assuming he was just playing within himself, trying to be careful, and he was just caught out by the way they played as well. Didn't help because they kept pulling out onto his area all the time. Their attackers worked on him and Matip, didn't they? Constantly.
Yeah, they could see a weakness there, and they went for it. They smelled blood, but as I said, some of the stuff he's done for us last couple of seasons, he deserves a bad day.
He can have an off day. Every player can have an off day. What I like is that he keeps trying, he keeps going, and he doesn't let his head drop. Yeah. Might have had a bad day, but he's still, most players and most right backs around now would probably love to have had a day as bad as he did.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay. Matip, I thought he was fairly steady. He got the jitters later on.
Was that the game he started off, or was that last week? I can't remember now. Was that the game he started off first 20 minutes, he was sensational, and then just decided to give the ball away? No, I know what went wrong. I know what I wanted to say about him. And what also annoyed me about Virgil van Dijk and Wyatt, there was a discussion about captaincy. Remember? We were down, at one point, we went down to 10 men while Milner was off getting treatment, right?
Yes.
You remember that?
He went on for about 4 or 5 minutes.
Oh, well, it went off because he had to go off and have stitches, didn't he?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you've got Virgil van Dijk supposed to be the captain, right? So he should have been telling the entire back four, right, sit tight now. Just until Millie's back, you sit tight and you hold on, and we just make sure we don't give it away. What happens? Matty makes a charging run up the field, leaves us completely open at the back, and that was how we ended up in trouble when they were all over us for a bit.
Right.
Why the hell did he make that run? He knew we were down to 10 men. First thing you think of, we're down to 10 men, you hold position. Just sit tight. It's only going to be for a few minutes. If you're down to 10 men for good, you might think, well, it's worth taking a risk for one off. But when it's only for a couple of minutes, he's just gone off to have stitches. You sit tight, you just hold on, you stroke the ball about at the back, and you just try and hold on to it and see out time, don't you, till he comes back.
Maybe it's because he's trying to prove a point. He wants to keep in the side, and he's got confidence now, and he's the Cameroonian Franz Beckenbauer. But yeah, I get your point.
It's still, and I would have liked to have seen Virgil van Dijk as he was captain on the day as well. And people keep saying that he should be the next captain. I'd have liked him to have said to him, to have had a proper go at him and told him to say, stay back. He should have been screaming at him anyway when he started on the run, because he just gave it away, and you just knew it was going to happen as well, didn't you?
Yeah. We did. Again, we didn't cover ourselves with glory in that first half. It was very, very poor. I think we didn't have any cohesiveness or any kind of a rhythm or anything. So again,
for a long period we were down to 10 men. To be fair, as well as being knackered.
Yeah.
And you got to also the other thing is, do you not think that Milner said after he came back on, he didn't look himself at all? He was struggling.
I don't think Milner had a good game per se. So
before it was quite early on, wasn't it? So
yeah.
I just think he came back on and he looked like his judgment was impaired slightly because he was mistiming everything. You know, even his passing wasn't there. You know what I mean? He was struggling a bit.
Think it was a slight concussion or something?
I just think he just got. You know, it probably it could have anything.
Knocked his confidence.
It could have just affected it. You know, he's just. You know, he's just sore and he's not able to concentrate properly. Yeah. Anything.
You know, highlighting on what you just said about the captaincy, I think if he can cement a place in the team, I think the Ox would be a fantastic choice for captain.
Yeah, a lot of people said that, and I quite like the idea of it. Apart from the fact he just doesn't stay fit enough.
Yeah. Well, that's for a later date.
And I think Henderson's a great captain anyway, so I'm quite happy with
him. Let's not give the job to somebody else while there's an able guy doing it
exactly
at the moment. So let's get to Virgil. He wasn't as good as normal, obviously. Again, he's loud and off day as well, I suppose.
He's still getting it together, and it's early days. You don't mind him struggling a bit early on, as long as they come. You know, as long as the results are coming, and then they get it together in time. But he doesn't. Klopp needs to stick with a back four. Settle back two. I mean, at least you know what I mean. He needs to. I don't care whether it's Matip or Gomez he plays alongside him, so long as he sticks with him for a bit, just to get him settled in.
Right.
Once everything's settled down, then you can start, you know, if need be, rotating when there's tired legs. That's different when everybody's settled in. But to start with, you just need to get the back four settled straight away. That's the important thing.
Because that was the hallmark of the halcyon days under Paisley, Dalglish, was the Fagan, was the settled back four, and a settled midfield, actually.
And a settled attack. He didn't really change much.
Yeah, it was
just tweaks. He didn't do rotation then, days.
Yeah, it was just injuries. If anybody got injured, you change it. Yeah.
Or suspended. That was it.
Yeah. Okay. Robbo, I gave him a 6. Oh, sorry, I gave Matip a 6.
Oh yeah, we haven't.
Virgil a 6.
Yeah.
I gave Trent a 4. I gave Matip a 6. Virgil a 6.
I don't think Trent was that bad. I'd have given him a 5.
Yeah, well.
He just didn't really have a bad. He didn't have a negative effect on the game, and he didn't have a.
I thought he got caught a few times. They ran in behind him a few times. I thought so.
Yeah, but then he was getting forward, affecting the play on the other end. So, and a couple of. I mean, Salah chased back and covered for him once, and it's always good to see that your forwards cover him when they're caught out and stuff.
Yeah, but he's added that to his game, Salah, anyway. So he's just doing what he should be doing. Mm-hmm. I gave Robbo a 6. I thought that he was better than Trent. He showed desire in the second half, and he was unlucky not to score. It was a good save from their keeper.
Yeah, if his crossing had been at the races, he'd have been he'd have had a good game. But he wasn't quite hitting them right, was he?
Yeah, it was disjointed performance first half.
All of them were. I mean, they were tight.
Yeah.
He's just run himself into the ground for 120 minutes or whatever he played. I can't remember. Did he play all 120?
What, Robbo?
Yeah.
I think he did, yeah. I think he did.
I thought he did, but, my age, you have to check.
True. And you got... What was I going to say to... Yeah, Genie. Mr. Versatile. He played in Fab's position against Chelsea, but in front of the back four. But again, he failed to impress against Southampton. Again, he got more into the second half, like they all did.
Yeah, it's not for me. I just don't think he's suited to that role. He can do it, but it doesn't allow him to play to his best. And Fabinho's so good there. Just seems a waste to have anybody else there, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah, but Fabinho couldn't walk after the Chelsea
Oh
game.
yeah, I
See the
get it. I
penalty?
understand it, and I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like I'm saying, it's just the 3 points is the only thing that matters. But it's just you're always comparing someone to Fabinho when they're doing the same role as him, and it's just not that as good. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, you prefer him in the more advanced role, right?
Yeah.
Genie?
Yeah, I like him when he actually makes runs forward rather than tries to just sit back in and protect.
Right, and that's the Keita role, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but Ginny can do it just as well. It was what he started his career as. He used to play that and on the wing.
In PSV.
Yeah, when I first saw him, he was a little kid. He was a kid. He must have been about 17, 18. He was playing. Might have even been. I can't remember what match it was. He was playing, but he was playing. He played on the wing, and he was just really skillful and charging forward, charging. And I thought, this lad's got something special. This could be a real special player here.
Yeah.
But he's never really quite lived up to what I thought. What I thought he would do. It's quite disappointing, really, when I've seen him since. And then other times you watch him and he's brilliant. And you just think,
last season I think he had a wonder season last season.
I still don't think he's reached the potential that I saw in him when I first saw him. But that's how good he could be. I still think he plays within himself.
You think that he's got the potential to be a worldie?
Could have been, yeah. I think it's a bit late now.
Gotcha.
He doesn't seem to have the confidence in himself, is how I see it. Because he can do it all, but he just doesn't seem to think he can.
You've got to cajole performances out of him.
Yeah, I mean, you watch him in the box. This guy's a goal scorer. I've seen him score goals. You've seen him score goals for fun. And then another time, he just looks like he couldn't score in a brothel with a fistful of 50s,
That's if he's hanging out with you. But let's get on to Milner.
If he was hanging out with me, he wouldn't have a fistful of 50s.
Milner, I think it wasn't his usual blood and guts performance, and that you come to expect. But I think none of them covered themselves in glory first half. So there you go. And he got injured as well, so that didn't help. Yeah,
I do think that affected him. Just even if it just slightly just put him off his game a bit.
Yeah. Okay. The Ox, I was surprised he started, to be honest, after the Chelsea game. I thought he'd be dropped, but he had a very lacklustre opening 45 minutes. And
do you think so?
I thought so. I thought he stamped some authority in the game in the second half, but first half I didn't think he was.
I thought he was decent. He was getting about the pitch, protecting the defence, covering the spaces, working back.
I didn't think.
He didn't really get on the ball and do anything, but then we didn't really get much of the ball to do that with.
Fair enough, mate. I just don't think he was effective in any area.
I thought he was really. I was really impressed with him, to be honest.
Who's the football expert here, me or you?
Well, it's certainly not you. So let's just leave it at that.
I think we'll have to agree to disagree on that one.
Yeah.
Salah. I thought he was on the periphery, but he still managed to produce a couple of outrageous pieces of skills, and he should have scored that one-on-one. But on the periphery, I didn't think he had a great game either. I gave him a 5.
He did. I think I would have given him a 6 myself. It wasn't his best performance, but then he just played 120 minutes. He's not had a break. He come back from the AFCON. He's not had a break. Yeah. Like Mane, they've not really had a rest. They've come in and they've done brilliantly, in my opinion, to just manage the 90 minutes, 120 minutes, and then 90 minutes in Salah's case, because Mane didn't obviously start the first one.
So why wasn't there wholesale changes made then? I mean, if that's the case, if they're leggy and they're tired, why didn't the Brewsters or the Origis or the Shaqs
how do they get match sharp unless you keep picking them?
Yeah, but if they're tired and they're not going to have an effective game, why don't you play?
Because you still need to get them match sharp, and the only way they do that is by keep playing. They got a week off afterwards, so
right.
So you don't need to worry about them being, about them not being ready for the next game, which is when you'd start worrying. If you've got another game, midweek, you'd worry then because you think, well, they're not, even if they make it through this one, they're not going to make it through the next one. So we're going to have to make changes somewhere. That's when you start making the alteration. Otherwise, you try and keep the team fairly settled, try and get the match sharp gradually, and the only way to do that is play.
But I would think that the 3 points means is the main main priority.
3 points.
I understand, but then why don't you play fresh legs instead of people who are tired?
But we got 3 points, so we didn't need to.
But we might not have done. We could have easily gone 2-0 down. But we did.
Yeah, buts and ifs, and all that, but we did. So it was the right decision.
Clearly, we're going to get bogged down in semantics here. So
I'm just saying it was the right decision because it worked.
Yeah, with hindsight, yeah.
Well, there's only the only thing that matters at the end of the day is Klopp's paid to pick a team to get a result. He got a result. Well, what else could you want him to do?
But he may not have done, but he did. Let's move on to Mane. Check this out. Cometh the hour, cometh the Mane. See what I did there?
God, yeah, I've read that about 40 times already.
Mate,
I keep getting pictures with that on, that on it sent to me.
Really? I thought it took me ages.
No, you didn't think of it first. Sorry, mate. Unlucky.
Oh, I'm a little bit deflated now, but anyway, back to Mane.
I got them last season, the Champions League final as well when he scored.
Why aren't you sending me them? I send you everything I ever get. I feel a bit.
Because otherwise you get you send me everything you ever get, and that's the problem.
I'll get you kicked out of there. What was I going to say? He really is unstoppable and undroppable. I just fully expect him to do something extraordinary each game. You know what I mean? You run out of superlatives for the guy.
When you talk about world class, I think you've got to say Mane is world class right now.
I just really, really hope that Madrid don't come in for him or whoever it is, because I've got to agree with you, mate. He is world class. He really is that good.
Yeah, that's something I would hate to lose him. He's playing so well. It's just sensational.
Mate, and he's doing it consistently.
And what he's doing as well, it's not just he's not just scoring goals. It's the things he does with the ball, the link-up play, the passing, the work
off
rate,
the ball
everything.
Running. Yeah, everything. Positions he gets to, the off-the-ball running he does. He gets other people in. It's a sight to behold. It's just beautiful. It's poetry in motion.
Yeah. Definitely. You missed out Bobby.
I haven't yet. I've got to give him my rating. I've got to give Mane my rating. I'll give him a 7 because he wasn't. I thought he was great, but yeah, I've just given him a 7.
Stingy.
No, it's not that. It's just that I can't give him. I
stingy.
just can't give him away just because they're Liverpool supporters.
Stingy.
That'd be like, where's my journalistic integrity gone? You know what I mean? Yeah. Right, now we come to the behemoth, Bobby Firmino. What a player, eh?
You know how I think he knits it all together. Without him, it looks a totally different animal. That front three.
Yeah, it's. I'm so glad we've tied them down to long-term contracts because if they go, we'll get a king's ransom for them. But hopefully they don't because these three are just gone.
I was just going to say he's the one of the three I least fear losing because I don't think he wants to go.
Okay, that's very inspiring and.
Well, he was the one telling Coots not to go. That he'll regret it when he goes. He should stay. He'll be much happier. He'll win more. He was saying he was the one that wanted, that was really fighting for continue to stay. So.
And that was from an objective point of view. It wasn't just selfish.
Yeah, no, that was him saying you're better off here. He didn't understand. He's saying well settled. Liverpool's a great place to live. That kind of thing. So.
Because it just does seem to me that Alisson, all the Brazilian guys, Alisson, Fabinho, Bobby, they've really made a life on Merseyside, and it just seems that their families, their wives, they're invested into the project. You know what I mean? Into the culture, and into the lifestyle.
You've got to remember as well, Lucas Leiva set it all in motion.
Praise be Lucas
when
Leiva.
He was there.
Yes, yeah.
He did a hell of a lot. I mean, he persuaded how many players to join, but as well, he was the one that got them all into a community spirit, like with the other,
Wow.
So I mean, he's done a lot for the club. It's got to be said.
The legend that is Lucas Leiva, who was Player of the Year at Lazio last season.
I know, God, that's so good to
Amazing,
him. So good. I'm really pleased for him.
I was at the game at Anfield, his last game for us, and the guy was in tears, mate. It was very emotional, very emotional. Loved the guy. So much stick that guy got for no reason whatsoever, and he never had any. He had no ill feelings for people at all.
No, he never had a bad word to say about anybody.
Yeah, great guy. Love him. Right, so let's move on to the Liverpool Arsenal preview.
Yeah.
We're going to have a whole week to train for this game. Hopefully we see a different Liverpool than what we saw against Chelsea and Southampton.
Well, they've got no excuse to be tired, have they?
No, they've had a week in their own bed, so hopefully the performances will improve. Klopp have had them for a week coaching. And let's face it, they are. I think they're still pretty dangerous with Alba and Pepe and Lacazette and Ceballos.
Yeah, they're dangerous. But the difference is, if our defence plays to its potential, right, they're good enough to stop them. If their defence plays to their best, they're still crap. That's the difference between this. So potentially we've got an advantage there. We've got to make the most of it. That's the key thing.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see how Ceballos does it when he's being smothered as well.
Yeah, because you said that because you think he's got a lot of time. He's had a lot of the games he's played where he's looked really good. He's had time and space to do some damage, and you think that because our midfield is so hard working and suffocating, and we'll see what happens when he doesn't get any space.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Is he another Christian Eriksen who just disappears when he's pushed and pulled, when he's smothered, or will he turn out to be like a David Silva, Bernardo Silva, who can still make it happen? We won't know until we see him.
Talking about Bernardo Silva, did you see that outrageous piece of skill against Spurs?
He's some player, to be fair, isn't he?
Friggin' hell. How lucky is that? They can replace David Silva with Bernardo Silva. That's just...
Well, it's not really luck, is it? It's being able to get in at the right time and buying them.
Fair enough, yeah. And right, back to Liverpool Arsenal. They've got that. They've got a centre back pairing of Socrates and Luiz, which I thought was a curious signing for them. He was cheap. Maybe that was it.
Do you know what? You had me confused then with Socrates. I was trying to figure out who the hell Socrates was. You mean Socrates?
Socrates. What was his name? Was it
Socrates or something? It is pronounced.
Socrates. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. You know me and pronouncing it.
I was thinking, is they signed an old Brazilian or something?
With the headband. Is he the one with the head? No, he's not. He was the one with the big throw, wasn't he?
Yeah, Socrates? I think so. Yeah.
What a player he was.
He was class, but he wasn't a defender.
I really hope he's playing for him because that would be amazing. We'd score 10.
Yeah, especially if he was playing at the back.
Yeah. So what's with the Luiz signing?
Emery loves him.
That's all it is. Position though? Midfield, defence.
I just know Emery loves him and he wanted someone to shore up the defence. I assume he was the cheap option when they couldn't get the ones they wanted.
Well, they got the guy and the French guy, and they loaned him back, didn't they?
Yeah, but that was part of the deal. That was the only way they could get him. So maybe Luiz is just a short-term option to keep them going till next season. I don't know. It just does seem odd. But yeah,
was it a payday for Luiz? I mean, why would you leave?
Because he wasn't going to play for Chelsea this season much.
Was that known to him?
Yeah, Lampard had told wanted to go with Who's the one out injured?
Rudiger and
and
Rudiger,
I forget.
Rudiger.
I can't remember whether it's Zuma or Christensen. He wanted to go with anyway. And Tomori he likes as well a lot. The lad he had on loan at Derby last season. So so Luiz might not have even got a game. He was only going to be a backup. So I can see his thinking.
Enough. Yeah, I can understand the move then. Yeah. What would your team be for Arsenal?
I'd just like to see it settled down. So keep the back four intact and the goalkeeper. Obviously, we don't have a lot of choice there. To be fair,
who would you? We know what the goalkeeper and the fullbacks will be. Wing backs. Who would you pick alongside Virgil?
Well, I'd stick with what we had. So Matip who started, so I'd stick with him. I know because you just want to get them settled in now. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Don't keep chopping and changing. Just settle in. He should have, once he'd picked Gomez for the first game, he should have stuck with him from then on, in my opinion. But yeah.
But Klopp is a central defender, right? Yeah, he knows better than anybody what positive centre-back pairing, a consistent centre-back pairing, brings to a team. You? So why is he? Yeah, but why is he chopping and changing then?
I just don't understand it. I don't know what the thinking is, but I mean, maybe Gomez was. Well, maybe he just wants because he wants to use Gomez as a right back to rest Trent. So, yeah, and then he decided to stick with Matip after that because he kept him in last week. Maybe that's last weekend, like so. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I would have just whichever one went in for the first game has to stay in my opinion, until until they need to be rested or get suspended or injured.
Right. Okay. Midfield. Who would your midfield be?
See, again, I'd like to just keep the settled side and let them play, but Fabinho has to start, doesn't he? Let's be honest.
Yeah, he's a shoe-in. What's happened with Keita? What's going on with him? Is he injured?
He was injured.
Yeah, but how long's he out for? Or
he's only got a short-term injury. So he could be available. I can't remember. I'd have to check, and I don't really want to do that right now because obviously we had so many technical issues with that. I'm afraid to open a browser window or anything. case it knocks the connection off again.
Yeah. No worries,
mate. I remember it was a short-term injury, and if I remember correctly, but I mean, I haven't looked for a while, so I might be wrong, but I'm sure I remember him being passed as potentially, he'd have to be looked at during the week to see whether he'd be fit to play. But I don't expect him to start either way.
I think it's really unfair that he's been classed as a sick note already, and I don't think it's true either because I was reading an article where it was saying that he actually isn't a sick note. He's played a decent amount of games for Liverpool. It's just a fallacy. Well,
people just look for things to have a dig at, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. So you think
or moan about?
Yeah. Fabinho, Gini, Milner.
It's got to be Henderson. You got to have the captain. Yeah. I know he missed out last time. I know I've just said about settled sides and all that, but the captain's fit enough. The only reason he was rested is because obviously he played against Chelsea. No, he didn't, did he?
Fair enough, yeah.
Did he?
He did play against Chelsea, yeah.
I'm getting confused. Yeah, he came on as a substitute against Southampton, didn't he? That's right.
Exactly, yeah.
So he'd be fit, he'd be fully fit. He'd be the starter.
Fab, Hendo, and your next final piece in the jigsaw?
This is the one. Against Arsenal, I'd start with Ox, I'd keep him in. Against Arsenal. Yeah, could you imagine if because he'll be up for that.
Oh, will he? Yeah, God, he will. Yes, yeah. That's a great point, actually. A Fab, Hendo, Ox midfield would be something.
Yeah, it looks a decent balance in there, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And then obviously the three amigos up front. And,
I don't even think we need to discuss that, do we?
No.
Yes. Or why would you change them,
No, mate, you can't. All right, mate. All right, let's get down to. I know you're not into predictions, so let's just keep our fingers crossed for a win. And
please don't make predictions, please.
Yeah, no. And then carry on with 3 points. Okay, so some transfer news, mate. Lovren's transfer to Roma has collapsed. What was the reason for that?
I don't actually know off the top of my head. Last I heard, he wasn't. I mean, he wasn't really that. Wasn't like he was desperately pushing for a move, and they were just trying to entice him. So I think it'll be just personal terms, that one, and payment terms as well, because Roma aren't the most reliable of payers. So.
Gotcha. And he's on circa 100k a week at
exactly.
Liverpool,
that's what I'm saying. Personal terms. They didn't want to pay him that much. That's 100%. They wanted him to take a pay drop. So. I mean,
and that's right. I think he wanted to get round it by he wanted a higher signing on fee. So he'll take lower wages, but he wants a sign on fee. So yeah. He's been linked to a season-long loan to Bayer Leverkusen today. Any thoughts about that?
I don't know. I'm torn on whether if it suits him, I'm happy for him to go because he deserves a chance. Because starts elsewhere because he's become a bit of a butt of jokes and stuff for too many people who only remember certain things. Like when he has a bad game, they never remember how many times he plays well. They just remember the Spurs game because he had a stinker. They forget about things like his wife and kids being taken hostage and threats from that Croatian gangster or whatever he was and all the problems with the Croatian FA and stuff. They forget about all the stuff that's affected him, and they just remember that he's made a couple of mistakes.
You make a salient point, mate, because he's a very. I remember during the World Cup, I was in Croatia, and they were saying that.
Jesus, get around a bit.
Phileas Fogg. They were saying to me that every day during the World Cup he went to see the psychologist for an hour or two. He's I don't want to say he's emotionally unstable, but he's a real confidence type of guy.
Mentally fragile is what they call it.
Really? Okay, thank you for that. For correcting me. But they said that he's a psychologist, and again, like you were saying, there was something to do with his partner. There were some issues there, and again with the robbery. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in his head, and I mean, everybody has issues, you know.
I mean, we remember his childhood as well. Not being funny, but he come from a war-torn country, and wasn't he a refugee from the war? Can't remember now. I remember there's a sub story because I remember reading it, and he suffered.
That's really going to affect you when you every day you see as a kid people blowing each other up and tanks blowing buildings up and your family and friends dying all over the place. I mean, surely that's got to affect you somehow later on in life. That in your unconscious, it's got to be dormant somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to make it easy for you, is it?
And let's face it, he's not a bad player. He can be really good on his day.
I remember that. Well, I remember one game against Everton when he absolutely hammered Lukaku, just bullied him out of the game. And then another time, he just couldn't cope with him. It's just odd.
Mate, I hope, from a selfish point of view, I really hope he stays because if we have a crisis, a defensive crisis, having Dejan Lovren playing for you isn't a bad thing, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm happy either way. As long as he gets the best for him, I'm not ready.
Absolutely, what's best for him. If he wants to play regular football and he leaves, he goes with my blessing.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have him. All right, mate. Let's talk about the one everybody wants to talk about. Philippe Coutinho going to Bayern on loan. For the season, from what I gather, it was an £8.5 million loan fee, which is way cheaper than what English clubs were quoted. Bayern are going to pay all his wages, which was $200,000 a week. Was he offered to us?
He was offered to everyone. There wasn't exactly a lot of people lining up though to sign him. So.
Is that because of Philippe Coutinho, the player, or is it because I think the figures were the transfer amount? I mean, the loan amount was totaled.
But you can't split them apart because if he's good enough, then it wouldn't matter how much they're charging.
Right, but it was £40 million for a 9-month loan deal. Surely nobody's going to spend
you've got to remember that includes his wages.
Yes, yeah.
When they're quoting the big figures, now check what Bayern are paying. Just do 200,000 times how long is he there for?
Not 9 months.
Yeah, but that's times 4, then times because obviously so it's 800. So that's over 7 million just on that alone.
Right.
On his salary, well over 7 million, and that's not counting bonuses or anything like that.
Okay. So why didn't the English clubs take a risk on him then? Why are Bayern taking a risk?
Spurs were keen, but they just didn't because Eriksen's still there.
So you think he'd have been a Spurs player if Eriksen had gone?
I think he would have. He was the option they'd turned to. Wasn't their first choice. This is the thing. He's just not good. He's just not as good as people think he is, and that's what the problem is. Is that he's not that high. He's shown himself to not be as good as people thought he was when Barcelona came on board him.
He's not good in a particular system, or just period. He's not that good.
He's just not that good. He's a good player. He's just not a great player. He's just a level below where people thought he was. And so instead of being £100 million worth, he's not. He's a 60 million at most player. Maybe 40 million even. He's just, would you take him over Maddison, for instance? James Maddison of Leicester? I certainly wouldn't.
Right, yeah, no, I get that. There's a big clamour for Maddison at the moment. Everybody's hot for him.
Yeah, but if you wanted to, if somebody said to you, you've got 60 million to spend, do you want to take James Maddison or Philippe Coutinho, and that'll cost you 60 million, which would you take? I'd take Maddison all day, every day. And that's the problem. He's he's got himself priced out of the market by taking the money at Barca.
I can see why we didn't take him back. We have a plethora of midfielders. He doesn't fit into the system anymore. I can see why we didn't take him back.
Well, we improved without him.
Yeah. I granted, we did. And that's why I can see why we didn't take him back. But I don't see why others didn't. I don't see why others didn't take a gamble on him, mate, because I don't think he's that bad.
But he's not that good either that you pay out £200,000 a week on him. Who really needs a player that can do what can he do? What position does he play?
Well, he plays on the left side of midfield as a number 10. He's a creative midfielder.
As a number 10 or on the left side of midfield, which?
In the central midfield, he creates and he can play on the left side of midfield.
But he can't, no. He doesn't trap back. He doesn't really create much. What he does is, the odd now and again, he'll get the ball, he'll beat a couple of players, and then he'll shoot, and that's it. That's all he does. The only time he ever passed was when it was Firmino, when he played for us. He'd pass to Firmino. Yeah. If it wasn't Firmino there, he'd just shoot.
Yeah. Klopp came out and said we couldn't afford him.
And he's right. Well, we don't need him. That's the thing. We don't need a player like that. Where would he play? And you look at any other team in the country, where would he play? Could you say, let's drop down a bit. Let's look at Wolves, say, for instance. It was, 7th last season?
Right.
Can you see, where can he play in their system?
Would
you replace Neves? Would you replace Moutinho? Would you replace Dendoncker? No, none of them. They're all better players than him in their system.
In their system, right. But I can see how he could have got into the United
he's not as
team.
good as Neves. Well, you're going to play him alongside Pogba?
Why not?
Because you'd just be overrun in midfield every single game.
We'd have the Scottish kid,
McTominay.
Sorry,
yeah,
McTominay in there. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's going to cover the entire midfield on his own.
Well, you got Pogba there. You can do some work. You got,
but he doesn't do enough, and nor does Coutinho. So that means McTominay would be left doing it all on his own, and that was the problem they had last season.
He does it now anyway.
Well, yeah, but at least now they're not paying 200,000 to Coutinho.
Fair play, yeah.
No, if you're paying that kind of money, you expect to look at him and say, "Oh, he'll go straight in that position." If he doesn't, then he's not worth the money. It was worth it to Bayern because they're rebuilding. Yeah, well, they needed a player, and they've got him on a loan to buy.
And it's 120 million if he. Sorry, my mistake. I think it's 105 million.
Yeah,
120.
Something like that.
It's not an obligation either. It's only an option
for you to buy. So yeah, well, he'll do all right there because it's an easy stroll of a league for Bayern, isn't it?
Why did he refuse to go to PSG as part of a possible Neymar transfer?
Well, nobody really wants to play for PSG, do they?
They're a shambles, aren't they?
It's not just that. I mean, you're playing in the French league. It's the backwater. There's only PSG, and it's just like, at least in the Bundesliga, you've still got RB Leipzig and Borussia Dortmund to give you competition. And you've got a chance of being competitive in Europe. PSG are never going to. I mean, they've even lost one of their games already this season, PSG.
Yeah. I think Tuchel's on his P45 is going to be coming soon.
I'm shocked he's still there, to be honest, because I'm not convinced he's that good.
You didn't rate him, did you? You didn't even rate him.
Can't handle egos, as he's shown.
Yeah, and he's got one himself as well, to be fair.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's why he can't handle them, because he's too full of himself.
He needs to leave that ego at the door for sure, because he'll never succeed.
Well, I don't know. It never stopped Sam Allardyce, did it? It never stopped him winning everything with Real Madrid. Oh, wait. No, sorry.
1 minute. What?
I was being sarcastic, because he's the biggest ego I know in football, isn't he? I was just saying, it never stopped him winning everything, did it? And then, oh yeah, he didn't.
So you have to explain your wit and your banter to
Sorry,
me.
mate, it goes over your head. I forget anything intelligent's just wasted on you. Can you bring the dog back in and I'll talk to him instead?
What did how many?
Get him to explain it to you. What's the dog's name?
Gatsby. He speaks French, you know.
Why?
I taught him French the other day.
I don't believe that because you can't speak English, let alone French.
How many games did Allardyce's managerial reign for England? One game, was it?
Yeah, but he got 100% record, to be fair. He won every game. He won every game in charge of England. There's not many men that can say that.
That would be a pub quiz one day, wouldn't it? Question.
Yeah, I'm sure it probably is now.
Yeah. All right, mate. Danny Sturridge signed a 3-year deal with Turkish side Trabzonspor today. Want to get your thoughts on that. And what I want to get your thoughts on, more pertinently, is that Simon Jordan, the ex-Crystal Palace boss, what he said about Sturridge. And I'll quote you here. He said, and this is just some of the nice stuff he said about Sturridge. It was a more in-depth interview. Article. He said, I think the conventional wisdom in the game is that Daniel Sturridge is a troubled problem player. He's a very, very talented footballer, but he's a divisive influence.
I just want to know how he knows what the thinking is within the game. He's not in the game. He never has been in the game. He was always on the outside. He was a joke. He was a laughing stock when he was in football. So, who's telling him this? How does he think he's the font of all knowledge? Even the guy's a no-mark.
I've heard some really snidey things in my time, but I think this takes the biscuit.
he was saying about his attitude, his what effect he'd have on the youngsters, and yet we know full well from what Square Tomato said about Joe Gomez has said about him that he works. He did a lot for the youngsters at Liverpool. So where the hell's this crap come from that he's a problem to have around youngsters? I mean,
it's such a pathetic, insecure thing to say. I don't know what agenda he's got. Danny, maybe he refused to come to Palace when he was there. I don't know, but I've heard some snidey things. But this takes a biscuit.
Jordan's
I just thought it was
prick.
Yeah, I just thought it was very. I thought it was
glory-seeking prick. He should stick to the sunbed.
Yeah,
and stay on it until he fries himself or something.
Fair play, mate. Can't agree more. And you know what was classy of Sturridge? Hasn't even responded to it. He just.
He probably doesn't even know Simon Jordan is.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's like it. Yeah,
that's the difference.
Yeah.
Though Sturridge really needs to work on his jokes. When he announced his site, I don't know if you've seen it.
What's that?
About Turkish Studgy Delight or something.
No.
It's like, oh God, please just. He announced it on his Instagram. Have you not? Didn't I send you the picture? Didn't I send you the link?
Yeah.
Well, underneath it, he put a bad joke, and it was bad. You're just thinking, oh God.
Well, a minute, hang on. I actually keep your messages contrary to a popular opinion.
I automatically delete yours as soon as they come in. Usually before reading them, if I can help it.
What, on the banner when it says my name?
Yeah, especially the videos, because I just don't want to look. I'm afraid of what they'll be.
You'll get your hands chopped off there.
I made the mistake of looking at one once, and I've still never recovered. Some things you just can't unsee. I didn't even know things that big could fit up there. That was the thing.
Let me have a look. Wait up. Let me get into this.
Oh, please don't do anything technical, because we already know that's not your forte.
Oh.
You'll need to phone up. What was it? Best Buy. Your mate from Best Buy.
Turkish Studgy Delight.
Yeah.
Right. That's my corny joke of the day. Jokes aside, looking forward to this new adventure. Thank you, God, for the blessing. Bye for now. There you go. That was nice. Turkish Studgy Delight.
It's awful.
It's so corny, it's funny. Yeah.
Oh, that's so bad. You just think, oh God, did you have to? You'd have been better just not putting anything.
Mate, he's trying to just endear himself to his new fan base. So fair play to him, mate.
Oh, it doesn't take much. As long as he scores, they'll love him.
Absolutely, mate. I hope he does, because he's deserving of it. I mean, the guy had so much. I mean, one thing Simon Jordan's right about. He was a very, very, very talented footballer, and it's a case of what could have been, I think, with Danny. And I hope he has a nice swan song, and I hope he has a good end to his career. Yeah. Right, mate. Let's finish with the juicy hot gossip. It's regarding Liverpool ownership. Take it away, Mr. Burke.
Oh God, no! I've forgotten what he said. No, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh no, only joking. No, this is something I mentioned on the last Ask the Ed podcast, the Joyous Six, just in case you wanted to look it up. The Lakshmi Mittal has been in Liverpool at the highest level, FSG. Have been speaking to Lakshmi Mittal about setting up a conglomerate, City Group style conglomerate to buy up clubs around the world, in a similar fashion to the way City Group have done it.
So let me get this right. One of the richest men in the world wants to invest into Liverpool Football Club.
Well, I don't know whether he wants to invest. I just know they've held talks. I can't say, how they've gone or anything like that. I just know they've been speaking together about it. I do know Mittal's been wanting to get into the Premier League for a long time, because that was what everyone thought when the Venkis bought Blackburn Rovers. Remember, they all thought it was Mittal because they were told it was Indian, and then they were gutted.
And they only knew one Indian businessman man, and they thought it was Mitchell.
I don't, but I just remember all the fans were getting all excited because all the reports were it's an Indian businessman, and obviously all the papers were saying, "Oh, it must be Mittal because he's been, he's desperate to buy into the Premier League." Like
the Venkies are chicken producers or something, aren't they?
Yeah, chicken farmers, and they gave gave chickens to every player or something.
I don't know,
There's
mate.
There's been loads of weird stuff out of him under them.
But mate, Lakshmi Mittal, obviously it's just pie in the sky at the moment, but if that comes off, somebody the stature of Lakshmi Mittal and the substance of the guy could be life-changing for us. It could be a real game changer in terms of I'm not just talking about transfers, budget, etc., but just globally, where Liverpool goes and how it's seen and how it's perceived, and exposure in India and the Middle East.
To be fair, I don't think they've got much of a problem out here in the Middle East.
Yeah, but
it's monstrously big. Liverpool is. I mean, you go out. Honestly, I've had people, because I'm wearing a Liverpool shirt. Like, obviously, when we play football, you know how superstitious I am. I've stopped wearing a Liverpool shirt at all now round here, except on Liverpool, on game days, because I'm too superstitious not to wear them. But I stopped wearing them because you just can't go anywhere for 5. You can't go for a quick walk, or because you're out for hours, because so many people stop you to talk mostly about Salah. But it's not just Salah. I mean, a group of Iraqis stopped me the other day just to take a photograph because it was a Liverpool shirt, because they all love Liverpool, and they were telling me it's the biggest supported club in the country, and things like that. And you just get it all the time. In the Middle East, it was always, the Dubai Reds are the oldest and biggest, and the best supported football fan club in the Middle East. They're the first, was the Dubai Reds, which is a Liverpool fan group. So
Fantastic.
There's no problem in the Middle East, but India, obviously, that's a different matter.
It's the biggest emerging market as we see, so that will be absolutely life changing. That will be a real game changer.
We could get into China because you can buy up a club there as well.
Oh my God, this is you've got me all giddy now, Tristan.
Australia, they can buy. The thing is as well, it allows them to send out young players around on loan.
Right.
Well, what City have been doing a lot of is, it seems to be a way of fudging funds to get more money into the club.
Right.
Because of the way they do swap. Look at the way they ended up with that Aaron Moy that ended up at Huddersfield.
Right, yeah.
He came from one of the Australian clubs and was basically given to Man City, who then sold him to Huddersfield, lent him out. I think they lent him out for a season and then sold him to make a nice profit for themselves. Never, but none of it actually came out of Man City's funds, like.
How, and the word is that it's FSG have had talks with Mittal. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, at the highest level. That's how it was described.
So this is Tom Werner and John Henry?
I'm going to assume so, yeah, because that's as I said, it was only described to me as at the highest level. So, they're the highest level as far as I know. I'm assuming it wasn't LeBron James anyway. Though I know he's a shareholder, but I'm sure it wasn't him. Yeah.
So Lakshmi Mittal is worth £7 billion.
Oh, is that all? I thought he had more than you. I didn't realise he was cheaper than you.
Mate, this is extraordinary, because for me, it's not just about the club. We need to be more mainstream. We need to be more exposure globally, and this would be big for us, I think. Yeah. Absolutely massive.
I don't know. I'm still like one of those that I'd prefer it to be fan owned, and I don't think it's possible.
Do you think FSG has an exit strategy, or do you think that they just want minority? They want to be majority shareholders with a minority coming on investing.
They will have an exit strategy. You don't invest in something if you don't have a plan to get out if need be. But they didn't get into it as in, like, they're not got into it with. It's a bit like Roman Abramovich. He didn't get into Chelsea to sell it. You know what I mean? And make a profit. That's not what he's got in there to do. He's got in there because he loves football and he wanted to own a football club.
Right.
And, if he sells it for a profit at the end of the day, that'll be a bonus. But, what he wants to do is have a football club and win trophies with it. That's what it's about with him. And FSG, they're a group of lads, in essence. Obviously, they're not lads anymore. They're older men, but you know what I mean. They're a group of lads, love sports. They got together to buy Boston Red Sox. All they want to do is they want to win things. They're not looking to sell, they're not looking for a profit as such. They want to make a profit. Don't get me wrong. That's, at the end of the day, they'd love to be able to sell it when they're finished with a big profit. But what they want is to win things. It's glory for them as much. It's a boys' club. Don't get me wrong. They still want to run it as a business. They want to make a profit and they want to make money off it. But the key is it's all about the glory for them because it reflects on their other businesses as well. I mean, Boston Red Sox winning the trophies. Do you not think that helped in their other business? Because, everyone in Boston goes out and spends a lot more money. And they'll comfort, if they can find some owned by John Henry, because he's the one that did it for them as they look at it, they're going to be buying from him rather than from the guy next door, aren't they?
Right. Do you think FSG will own Liverpool Football Club in 5 years' time?
Yeah, I think they're looking to double, like I described it in the other podcast, I think they're looking to double down and increase the investment and spread out to other countries. Is the whole point of this, the talks with Lakshmi Mittal. This isn't the first person they've held talks with in this regard either. They were talking with a Chinese group a while ago for a similar sort of thing.
What happened there?
Well, the government changed their rules. City got in before it changed. Before they, when they were pushing them to get out and building football. Remember, they were actually telling them, go out and invest in football, and then they changed the rules, didn't they? And they stopped pushing them. They were actually backing them.
It was a sovereign fund, wasn't it? They were promoting. They were promoting the country of China via football.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of, a sovereign fund, yeah. And then when they stopped doing that, obviously everyone who didn't get in time missed out. And obviously now it's made it more difficult for selling players to the country. Who was it that missed out on the move there this season? Because they wouldn't pay a fee. Remember they wanted him on Bale? It was Bale, wasn't it? You're right.
Yeah. Are you happy with FSG?
I don't think any owner would ever make me 100% truly happy when they're not a fan. You know what I mean? They're not the fans' ownership. So, as in terms of it, there could be a lot worse. So I'd say content is the word I'd use.
You want the Barcelona model?
More like the, way it's... Because the Barcelona model's a mess. With the president and all that voted in every year. Yeah. No, I don't want that kind of system. I don't know if I want the German ownership system where it's got to be at least 51% in the hands of fans.
Right. Okay. Do you think it's feasible?
Well, it's done all right in Germany, hasn't it?
Do you think it'll happen in your lifetime?
No, never. I don't think it'll ever happen.
Why?
Too much money involved.
But there's money involved in the German game. It works there.
Yeah, but they already had the model in place to start with.
Okay, gotcha. So you think
they didn't have to buy, they didn't have to buy 51% to make it into a fan ownership. If you had to buy 51%, that's a hell of a lot of money you've got to raise. And you only have to look at the lower league teams, the way they struggle to get the fan ownership funds together.
Fair enough. What's going on with the naming rights for the stadium? Oh, not stadium. So it was stadium rights, wasn't it? Naming rights for the stadium.
It's a difficult one because nobody wants to be the first one to change it. Would you? Would you put your money into that? I mean, come on. How many people are going to buy your product, do you think, extra, after you rename Anfield in the name of your product.
Oh, you think there's going to be a kind of a consumer backlash?
Well, I don't know if there will be, but I don't think it's going to help them, is it? It's certainly not going to improve their status in Liverpool, is it? I mean, if Ford say sponsored it and changed it so it was the Ford Stadium, how many people are going to go and buy a Ford after that when they can just go and buy a Vauxhall or a Toyota or whatever instead? Because, you bastards,
I don't know. I mean, it's something like this. Who's our sponsor? The Standard, is it the bank? Standard Chartered, right?
Yeah.
The Standard Chartered Anfield wouldn't have a bad ring about it.
Oh God, no! I'd hate that. You've only got to look at the way that's why Barcelona gave their shirt sponsorship to a charity first.
UNICEF,
to get the fans used to the idea of having shirt sponsorship, because they couldn't get them to accept it. They've been trying for years, and the fans would just go into revolt if it was even suggested, at any of the the meetings. So what they did was they said, they said to them about, we'll give it to a charity, and then they did that for a couple of years. And once everyone's got used to it having a shirt sponsorship, then it's having a shirt, having the logo across it. It's not difficult to sell, then, is it?
Fair enough. Mate, you've got me all invested into a Lakshmi Mittal FSG partnership now.
Yeah, I wouldn't get carried away. It might come to nothing, but still, it's interesting that they're looking at that.
Now, let me ask you about this. You remember you're talking about the Chinese possible investment. They said that it didn't go to a high level. The talks didn't ever progress to a high level, but these have. This has gone up to the top.
This is the highest level of FSG. Have spoken about it, yeah.
Right, and that wasn't the case with the Chinese, right?
No, it wasn't. As far as I'm aware, It wasn't. No, it was more the Chinese were the ones that were interested in that.
Gotcha. What?
You've got to be honest. I've got to say one thing. Can you really see the FSG as an American company working at? It wasn't was it the right time to be getting in bed with a Chinese group?
You mean politically?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that was before the trade war, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know, but it was already, there was things brewing at the time, which is why the government, the Chinese government changed their... And it's also working with the Chinese. You never know which way the government's going to blow. You know what I mean? The wind's going to blow with the government, whether as they've shown, they chop and change.
It was a volatile, precocious kind of
volatile. That's weird.
Situation. Yeah, no, I understand that totally. Yeah. Oh well. Let's hope something comes to fruition, because I think that us going into.
Do you like the idea then?
What of an Indian minority ownership?
Not the Indian owner. I don't care about the ownership. That's irrelevant, really. I mean, what difference it makes to us? I mean, the conglomerate having clubs around the world owned by Liverpool, the way City have done it. Do you not find that a little bit just seems?
What you mean? It's a bit
distasteful.
In terms of back to the old like Rule Britannia kind of thing, it's.
No, I just think over. I just don't like it as in terms of they should have their own teams to support.
Well, do you think it's kind of colonialist kind of thing?
Yeah, I suppose. I hadn't really thought of it that way. I was just thinking it's like kind of the way when people were talking about them having, like Liverpool, Man United putting B teams in the lower leagues. I just think you're taking away from their own teams.
Yeah, but they have their own sovereignty. They have their own, with...
well, Melbourne City aren't Melbourne City. They're Manchester City's feeder club in Australia.
Yeah, but they still have their own sets of supporters, and I mean, it gives people a chance that they wouldn't have before.
It's like the RB team, the Red Bull teams. It's just like, it feels wrong.
City and New York. Which New York club is it? The one
New York City. That's why it's called New York City.
Yeah. Is it the one Vieira used to work for?
Yeah, that's why he got there. That's why he got the job.
Gotcha. Yeah, but it gives people opportunities. I mean,
what opportunity does it give them over it being New York City, who are a separate club in the MLS without any Man City backing. Just seems to give them just seems to. I don't know. It just feels like what's happening is that it just feels like a way of giving one club extra advantages that they shouldn't have. As in, Manchester City can have all these farm clubs, and right. Then I just don't like the idea of farm clubs and affiliated clubs. I think clubs should be separate. They're clubs for they should belong to the fans. They should be separate. They should be about the fans, and that's it. You know what I mean?
You think it's unjust?
Yeah, it just feels like you're given. It's like the loan system. I don't like it at all. I would ban loans if you can't. You shouldn't have loans. You should have a youth system to fill in if need be. If you're short of players, put a youth player in. Why borrow it from somebody else? It adversely affects the competitiveness of the league they're in because they've got an unfair advantage.
I hear what you're saying, pal, and I honestly, it doesn't affect my sensibilities in any way.
Nah, you don't give a toss, do you? Let's be honest.
I've got no heart. I just want Liverpool to be winning, mate. That's all I care about, to be honest. And I know that sounds a little bit Machiavellian.
Selfish.
It's Machiavellian, yeah.
A bit Prick Parry.
Yeah, that gives me. I'm going to read your article on Rick Parry now. I've been looking forward to that.
I know, because you kept bugging me. That's why I sat down all day and just got it done today.
Yeah, so I'll be reading that after we finish here. Actually, on that juncture, should we call it a day?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You got anything else you want to talk about?
Not unless you're going to bring the dog in so I can have an intelligent conversation. No.
What, a proper podcast, you mean?
Yeah, I'll have somebody intelligent to talk to. Well, more intelligent than you, anyway.
Where is he? Gatsby!
Do you really call him Gatsby? I mean,
yeah, because he's great.
Oh, God's
sake. But you wouldn't know about literary icons, mate.
No,
I
wouldn't.
So
it's
pointless.
It's a decent
pointless explaining to you. Somebody who doesn't think Quentin Tarantino is a stellar.
No, I don't. Artiste. Or Quentin, for that matter.
Quentin Tarantino, that's it.
But he just does copies of other films. How is that good? What's the skill in copying somebody else's work?
Copying what? He's only copying history.
What?
That's
Kill
all
Bill?
He's doing.
Kill Bill's a copy. It's a rip-off of Game of Death. Even gave it a yellow suit. Every single film he's done, he said, is a what does he call it? What's the word he calls it? Is a tribute, not tribute. You know what I mean?
Mimicry is a compliment.
It's not. It's copying. It's because you're too thick to come up with your own things.
It's an homage.
That's the word he used. That's the word. It's bullshit. Yeah. It's not an homage. It's copying. Think of your own stuff.
Well, a minute. Hang your horses. Wait. You didn't like Inglourious Bastards?
Oh, God, no. That was awful. I didn't even... I watched about 10 minutes and had to switch it off because I was bored to tears. It's just those stupid speeches he has everyone making that are just imbecilic. I mean, you've got to have an IQ of about 5 to think he's intelligent.
It's drama and suspense.
But it's not. It's just
He rewrites history.
Badly.
It's amazing.
Badly writes history.
I refuse to talk to you anymore. I can't. Goodbye, caller.
Thank God for that.
Same time next week.
Yeah.
See you, mate.
Well,
right.
Before that, for the VAR.
That's right, mate. Yeah.
Okay. Take care, mate.
Love you. Bye.
Right. Bye, everyone that's had to put up with this. Sorry.